Hey everyone, how you doing? It's Friday, June 19th, and this is a video to walk you through lab 6. 6, yeah. So let's take a look at the assignment description on D2L. So it hurries itself up. Okay, so you will be mixing a pre-existing multi-track session. That is 11 tracks deep, and you'll be using EQ, compression, reverb. You'll be making sure the project doesn't end up too loud, too soft. You'll use buses to and sends for efficient signal routing. You will pan elements left and right to create a balanced stereo image, and you'll export a polished stereo mix that meets loudness standards. So the loudness standards that you submitted for Lab 5, it won't be as extensive as that. I think I'm only asking for a -16 LUFS mix. And so let's just get started with this lab. So the first thing you'll need to do is download the zip file right here. And if you take a look inside that zip file, you'll see that it contains 11 wave files, all of which are just sequentially named. And so what we'll do is go ahead and start Resolve and just drop all of those tracks into the Fairlight page of DaVinci Resolve. So we'll start a new project. We'll call it Lab 6, Audio Mixing. We'll go over to the Fairlight tab, which is right here on the lower right. We'll go ahead and start a new timeline by hitting Command or Control N. This project will only have one timeline, so there's no need to name it anything, but you do need to change the audio track type from mono to stereo. And then once your timeline is set up, you'll need to import all of the audio files that were in that zip file. So you'll hit Command or Control I or go to the file menu and select import, and you'll just select all 11 at once. Once you do that, you'll see that they show up in the media pool over on the left-hand side. Let me just make sure yeah, okay. And from here, you'll want to take the audio files from the media pool and put them into your timeline. And by default, Resolve will put these end to end rather than on top of each other. And so what you're going to need to do is select all 11 of them at once. And so you pick them up with your mouse and bring them over here, and you can see right now it's wanting to put all of them in one track. But if you hit Command or Control on a Windows machine, you'll see that it stacks them. And so I'll go ahead and drop them there, and it asks, do you want to add tracks to insert and align the audio clips? And the answer is yes. At which point you'll see that all 11 should be sequentially even in there. So that's how you get started. And you'll see that I'm going to go ahead and eliminate the media pool because we don't need that anymore. And I'll make this a little wider. So you can see that there is a channel, a vertical channel over here for each track that you've got in the timeline. They're the same one. So from there, if we look at the lab instructions, the first thing you need to do is, well, we've done the first step to import them all. We want to label and color code them. So this involves figuring out what instrument each track is and assigning it a color. And if there's more than one track that has like an instrument group, like drums, for instance, or guitar, we'll want to put those in the same color group. So what you'll do is just solo each track to figure out what it is. The solo button is right here. Alternatively, there is a solo button. It's this, for the corresponding one in the channel strip as well. So we'll just start at the top and see what we've got here. All right, so we can see that one is drums and bass. So we'll call it drums and bass. And we'll assign it a color by right-clicking on the channel header over here and going down to, where is it? Change track color. And we'll just start with orange. And we'll just keep working our way down. Okay, so that is also bass and drums. So we'll go ahead and that drums and bass as well. And change the track color to the same one as the other one. I'll do this for a couple more, but I'm not going to do all of them so that you can practice this on your own. Let's see what this one is. Okay, so that's acoustic guitar. And let's just try one down here at the bottom, see what we got. Agents on ground control to agents on. You really made it great. Okay, and so that sounds like background vocals. We can abbreviate that to BG. And there's probably other background vocal tracks too that you'll want to put in that same category. So we'll go ahead and label that blue. Okay, so you'll want to go ahead and do that for all of the tracks. And color this one and change that to pink. So you'll do that for all the tracks. And the next step is to solo each track and set its faders so that the peak hits around -12 to -6. And this is so that once you have all these tracks combined, their volume is also combined, and you don't want it over clipping, like going into the red. And so you want to listen to each one individually and set and don't let the meter get above -6. And the meter is right here, and you can see that it starts at -50 and goes to 0. And so -6 is right around, just below -5. So let's listen to one of these, and you want to try to find the loudest part in each track. Very much she knows. And just to give myself a little headroom, I'm just going to turn each one down so that it's closer to the bottom of that range at -12. All right, so I'll just do that for each one. You'll solo each one. And this is going to be different for each track according to how loud it is, right? Let's see what we got here. This one looks like that track just has like that clapping sound effect. So we'll go ahead and keep that kind of low as well. Okay, so you're going to want to change the volume of each track over here according to that, to where the level stays between -12 and -6. And you can read the meter, obviously, however loud it gets, that's the number over there. So I'll do this for one more. Let's do it for this acoustic guitar track. Okay, so this starts out as acoustic, but it's probably, I guess it's probably just guitar more generally. All right, so let's try to see if we can find the loudest part. It's probably here in the beginning. So if you watch the meter here, you can see that hopefully it doesn't jump above like -10 or so. And we can jump around in the track to see if it holds true for the rest. Yeah, so we're good. So you'll do that for each track as part of step 2. And we call that gain staging. The gain of a track refers to the processes that contribute to how loud it is. So the audio file itself has a particular loudness level that it's set, that it's hard coded with, but then every time that we introduce a new process, it changes that loudness level. So every time we introduce compression, equalization, noise reduction, anything like that, it's going to change the loudness of the track. So it's not just sort of the volume of the it's not just the volume of the waveform that we're looking at here, it's the volume of everything that contributes to that. So that's why we want to start out with a pretty low conservative level for each track, so that as we're building this mix and adding effects and adding audio processing that change the volume levels, it doesn't ever get to a point where it overloads the master track. So that's sort of why we adjust this gain staging at the beginning. Okay, so let's keep going here. Step 3 is EQ and dynamics. Jesus, that's so loud. So obviously I'm not working through each of the tracks. You'll need to do all of this more methodically, including steps 1 and 2. So step 3, I'm going to just show you the processes. These are not, you'll need to do this for each of the tracks. So I'll show you a couple examples of how this works. Let's see, dialogue. There's no dialogue in this audio. It's all music. For the music, you want to cut competing frequencies. And I don't know why it keeps referring to dialogue, but it's true that you do want to make room for the lead vocal or the lead vocal track. That is true. So in doing that, you'll EQ, you need to EQ each track and apply a compressor as well. This doesn't outline that, but for compression, you'll set each one so that audio levels are consistent. And I'm just going to leave it at that because it really depends on the source material. But let's go through equalization first. So we're back over here, and let's just start with the drums and bass. And actually, these act as a stereo pair. So I'll go ahead and talk about panning here. I think panning comes later in the lab. It comes at step 4. But panning is just, if you're listening on a pair of headphones, you've got 2 channels that you're actually simultaneously listening to all the time with music, the left and the right side. And the panning refers to where between the left and the right your audio shows up. So on the channel strip, The left and right is signified right here in this box. I know it's confusing that it's a grid as opposed to just left and right, but it's set up for surround sound. So all you need to worry about is this dot's position left to right at the very top. So let me demonstrate that right here by showing you what happens when I um, pan this hard left and hard right. And you'll really be able to hear the difference if you've got headphones on. Okay, so that's hard left, and that's hard right. Make sure that's coming through. Yeah. Oh, no, wait, hold on. It's not coming through. Let's see here. All right, let me just troubleshoot for a second to see why it's not coming through here. Just a second. Okay. All right, let me show you again. Here's hard left on that first track. And then I'll move it across. Center. Hard right. Okay, so for any tracks that you identify as belonging to a stereo pair, which means that it's the same thing, sometimes you record something with two microphones so that you can pan them hard left and hard right. And I think that's what's going on with these two drum and bass tracks. And so if we listen to you can hear they're very like related to each other, both in, I mean, they are slightly different. So what we're going to do is label drum and bass left, drum and bass right. And you'll do that for any tracks that have a stereo pair. There's definitely more in here that you'll need to find yourself. But then what I'm going to do for that stereo pair is to pan the left one hard left and the right one hard right. And so that's like a necessary thing you'll do. But then you should also sort of artistically or creatively pan tracks so that everything isn't dead center, right? Like it's more interesting to your ears if the guitar is coming from like slightly to the right as opposed to coming straight down the middle. So you'll need to adjust panning for all the tracks, not just for the ones that are stereo pairs. Okay, let's get back to EQ and dynamics. Okay, so let's start with equalization. And again, I'm just going to do this to one or two of the tracks. You'll be responsible for applying EQ to all 11 tracks, just like you'll be responsible for panning all 11 tracks and applying compression to all 11. So let's try I always find it useful to loop a section of what we're going to be EQing so we don't have to constantly be going back and starting it over. So using the focus mode tool, if you just select a section, you can loop it by hitting the loop button right here. All right, so general instructions for EQ. We're going to cut some stuff out of the low end. Since we're doing just music. All right, so you open the equalization and compression tool right from the channel strip. You'll just double click on the EQ box. This is similar to what you did for Lab 5, where you can sort of start by just turning all these off so it's not confusing. And you want to insert a band pass filter, which is the one that you can change the shape of them all, but you want to start with the band pass down at the bottom. And you want to do each of these by listening to it and making sure you're not eliminating important information from the track. We can see from the levels that are, or from the EQ curve that the track is generating, that there's a lot of energy down here in the low end, which makes sense because this includes the bass guitar. So I'm not gonna take much more off of this from, the initial low pass that we're doing. But I'm going to sort of listen to see if there's other things that we can do EQ wise to make it sound better. Okay, so by bringing this up, I'm kind of bringing out that snare marching drum sound a little bit, which I think I mean, it is a creative decision, but I think it sounds better. Okay, and then this second hump right here, I think that's sort of where the bass has like its presence range, and I feel like it sort of brings out the bass by putting this here. We can turn it off and on to see if that's really the case though. Yeah, I mean, obviously listening on headphones will give us better results. So if at all possible, mix this with headphones on, but I do think that gives the bass a little more presence. So you'll do this kind of thing for each of the tracks according to, how it sounds to you. But minimally, you need to apply a low pass filter to each track. But in addition to that, you should apply other nodes to make it sound sort of creatively how you want it to sound. So this will require some experimentation. So that's equalization, and we sort of went over EQ in Lab 5 anyhow. But then you'll set compression as well. Good default values are threshold at -20, ratio at 3 to 7 to 1, short attack, long release. So the compression is part of the dynamics. Whoop, that's not what I wanted to do. Compression is part of the dynamics suite of tools. So if you double click on the dynamics box, you'll see the compressor here. Also, I want to emphasize that each of these tools is not going to be turned on unless you switch the top, like the radio button, on. We've got EQ, compression. We're going to set this as a default to -20. And then this to about 4 to 1. And I want to emphasize that if you just go through and put the settings I'm using on each of the tracks, you're not going to pass this lab. I'm relying on your ability to listen critically, listen creatively to this. What I'm showing you here is just sort of some standard moves that you can start with, but they're certainly not what you can end with. So I'm going to turn the attack down kind of low. Put the release around 110. Let's see how it sounds. Oh yeah, makeup gain should by default be turned up to between +5 and +10 dB. So we'll go ahead and bring that up. I'm sure we're not clipping. And then you can toggle it on and off. Okay. At least I can hear that it's much punchier with the compressor on. It's got like more presence, more energy right at the beginning of each transient, and that's sort of what the goal of good compression is. So, like I said, the settings that I put in here are good ones to start with, but you need to change them. You need to work with this track beyond just putting in the boilerplate settings. So that's EQ and dynamics. The next step is panning, which we covered. You want to keep the dialogue or in our case, it's the lead vocals. You want to keep the lead vocals centered. Pan music elements slightly left or right. There's no sound effects just yet. I think this came from a lab where we were doing video for audio for video rather than just music. So, all right. So, and one thing I do want to add here is effects. Okay, so as far as panning goes, I think I've sort of laid out how you need to pan these. I can grab another track just for an example to see where in the stereo field it might belong. Let's see what we got here. Okay, so here we got the crazy ship taking off noise and strings. So this is a strings track. So rather than letting this stay dead center, I'm probably going to try to put this slightly right to see how. Yeah, so either like partially left or partially right is what you're going for. Rarely do you want to pan something like hard left or hard right, but you do sort of want to like try to give everything space in the stereo field that you're creating. So I think that's pretty much the basics of panning in stereo. All right, so next up is effects. I would like you to create 2 stereo buses, one for reverb and one for another effect of your choice. Route at least 4 tracks to each bus. Okay, so this is a way to apply effects to your multi-track recording. Right now we have these 11 tracks that we started with. I'm doing on time here. Okay, we're right at 30 minutes. And so what we're going to do now is create 2 more buses. So a bus is a track that's kind of like a normal audio track, but it's only for effects. And so the effect lives on the bus track and you send the audio from one track to the bus. So this bus right here is just the default stereo bus that everything gets sent to, and you can see that down here where the bus outputs are listed. So what I'm going to do is create a new bus by going to the bottom. Actually, you can go anywhere in the track header. So we can do it at the top, anywhere in this header section. So I'll right click and do add track and do, actually it's not a track I want to add a bus. Okay, so to add a bus, hold on one second. Okay, so to add buses, like I just described, you'll go to the Fairlight menu, you'll go to bus format, you'll go to add bus, and you need to add at least 2. You can do more if you want to add more effects, but okay, and so I'm gonna make one of them orange and one of them pink, so I know exactly what they are. Or no, yeah, orange and pink. Well, those are colors I'm using already, so let's go green. Green is being used too. Let's try chocolate. Yellow. Okay. All right, and so those tracks show up. Where do they show up? It's 2. If you add so once you add them to be visible. Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay. So there's sort of two different windows here, 2 different panels. One is for the buses, and the second, or one is for the tracks, and one is for the buses. So if you expand this out, you'll see that there's bus 1, bus 2, bus 3. And just to reiterate, bus 1 is where all of the sound ends up. So the first thing you want to do with the buses is make sure that the audio from buses 2 and 3 are also being sent to bus 1, so that everything, absolutely everything, ends up at bus 1. So we'll send this to bus 1, and we'll send this to bus 1. The next thing we're going to do is add effects to the 2 buses. And like I said, one of these effects needs to be reverb, and you'll choose the other effect. So we'll go to reverb, Fairlight effects, and reverb. And again, this needs to be on the bus, not on a particular track. I think I made that clear here. I guess I'll put here, you need to add the effects to the buses. So once you have the buses added and you've added an effect to each one, then you can start applying that effect to different tracks. So again, I'm just going to demonstrate with track 1. So I'll go ahead and solo just that one, and I'll center it just so that it's centered in our headphones. And let me go ahead and loop a section here. This. Okay. And so to add some reverb to this track, now that we've set these buses up, we're going to go down here and add it to the bus. And I guess I did these automatically. So now that we're sending audio from audio track 1 to bus 2. And so you'll see that the level on bus 2 is now jumping. And we should be able to hear the reverb we should be able to recognize the reverb by turning the send to bus 2 on and off. So let's see if there's a difference. Yeah, you can hear some definite reverb there. Let me go ahead and make this really obvious that it's reverb. We'll turn the pre-delay way up, turn the reverb time way up. How can we make it really obnoxious? Brightness, distance. Okay, this should sound like a cave at this point. So if I'm going to turn that on and off a couple times so that you can really hear what the reverb is doing. Okay, so that's how we get reverb on the tracks. And then you'll choose another effect for bus 3. There's a bunch here you can choose from. There's different distortion, different modulation of different kinds, like chorus and flanging. The only thing that you cannot put on bus 3 is a compressor or an equalizer, because we're already doing those in the channels themselves. So bus 2 and bus 3 need to have, I guess, you can put delay, distortion, a modulating effect, some kind of weird pitch correction, a reverb. Let's see. Yeah, all of those are acceptable, but not compression, not equalization. And it should have some auditory change to the music. So you'll need to sort of justify the choice you're making. But like the lab instructions say, you need at least 4 tracks sent to the reverb. So you'll just duplicate this process for another track. So if we wanted to add guitar and the drum and bass track, we'll just go here and do bus 2. And now both of them are sending to the reverb channel. Now toggle the reverb on and off now so that you can hear what it's doing to both the guitar and the drums. Okay, so again, that's not to say that those are the tracks you should add them to. You should add these effects to tracks that you're making a conscious choice about the sound of those tracks for reverb or for whatever your second effect is. So that's effects for stereo buses. We just did this. I guess I was sort of replicating that. Okay, so the last thing you'll do once you have the track, all of these things done to the track, you'll monitor the loudness, and your goal is -16. So we'll go back over to the meters section, which is right here. And again, we're going to go up here to the loudness and reset that. And we're going to not have anything muted or soloed. And we're going to play the track and start the loudness meter. And since our goal is -16, the overall integrated level cannot go above -16. So let's see what we're at in sort of a loud section. Okay, so we're at +6, which is way too hot. So what we'll do is lower the bus 1 volume, since that acts as our master fader. All of our tracks are being sent there, and the 2 buses are being sent there at this point. So we'll reset this. I'm going to lower this down considerably and start it again to see if we can get somewhere around -16. Okay, we're a little better, but we're still way off the mark here. So let's go ahead. I just about grabbed the wrong bus. So let's turn this down considerably and try it again. And I forgot, we have a track soloed. We want to be listening to the whole mix. Let's try this again. All right, so I'm going to do this in real time while I'm listening to it. So just sort of pay attention to what I'm doing. Sitting in a tin can, far above the world. Light up is blue, and there's nothing I can do. Okay, -16 is probably hard to do with a music track like this, so let's change that to -6. That's not a broadcast standard, but for music, it's not as important because it gets normalized on whatever platform you upload it to. So let's aim for -6 right here. And you're going to want to listen to a couple different parts of your track to make sure that the loudness is consistent. And as long as you're not ever going above +6, you'll be good. And then the last thing is to export your mix as a WAV file. And I want 200 words on like your volume decisions, EQ choices, effects choices, EQ and effects choices, compression, stuff like that. I want a 200-word document that sort of describes what your mentality was while you were doing this and what you were the creative choices you were trying to make. So you'll go ahead and export it, which is as easy as going to this deliver button. You'll hit deliver. You want the entire timeline, and you'll go over on the, I don't know if I can see. Let me change this to over here. Yeah. Okay, so on the deliver, you hit the deliver button, and then you'll go up here and you'll scroll all the way over to audio only. You'll call this we'll just call it Space Oddity. Dunham. You'll choose a location. Downloads. It's fine. Gonna select the audio here. You want it as a WAV file. You want the bit depth as 24. The rest of the settings are fine, so we'll go add to render queue. And then once it's up in the render queue, you'll go ahead and hit render all. And it will, build that file into a stereo mixdown. And then if you go to your file explorer, you'll see it as a WAV file. And that's what you'll turn in along with, I want to see your DRA file. Actually, really all I need is your DRP file. DaVinci Resolve project. And that's just the file you've been working on here. So this saves by default in whatever location you created it in. So for me, I created it in downloads, I believe. So where did I create it? If you go to, if you're not sure where you actually created this project to, if you go to File and Project Manager, and you go to Project Settings, it should tell you where it actually is located. Actually, if we just go to Create New, it will probably, it should be in Downloads. Hold on, let me just look there for a second. Okay, so the easiest way to get a hold of the DRP file, which is what you've been doing all this work in, is to go back to the project manager, find the project that you created for this. Mine is Lab 6 audio mixing. Created all these other ones by error. So what you'll do is you'll, actually I have a copy open. Let me just go ahead and open the original so I know I'm doing it right. Recent projects. Let's go to the project manager on this one. All right, so you'll go project manager. You'll right click on the project that's got the red check, which is the one you have open, and you'll do export project, and you'll send that to a directory that you can locate. So I'll put it in documents. I don't know if there's a naming convention. Just whatever your project is, .drp, so you'll save that. And then if I go to where I told it to save, you'll see that that is a DRP file. So that's another file. That's in addition to your exported WAV file and your written mixing notes, I'll need your DRP file too. So what you'll do is just gather those all together, put them in a zip file, and upload that to D2L. Okay, that's pretty much it. We covered a lot of ground here, but you know, we're sort of doing all the audio mixing in one lab. If there's any particular part of this process that you find confusing or you're not sure how to do it, get in touch with me on Teams this weekend and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Okay, I'll see you in the next video.